Hello, today's Insta coaching goes out to Sarah Doyle, love you Sarah, and it is on how to be abundant when all you see is scarcity. So it really boils down to a fundamental misunderstanding. Most people think that being abundant means having things, having lots of money, having followers, having privileges, but you can have all of those things and still not be abundant. Because being abundant is not dependent on outside circumstances. I know plenty of people who have all the money in the world and still feel disconnected, frustrated, and unhappy. And what happens when we're fixated on getting results is that our focus cannot be on how we're being because we're so externally focused. See, most people think that you need results before you can be who you want to be. You need money before you can be generous. You need to be thin before you can be confident. But it's actually the exact opposite. From nothing, we choose how we want to be, and from that way of being, we choose which actions to take, and those are the actions that produce the results. Ways of being are self-generative, meaning you don't need to have any outside circumstances align before you can choose how you want to be. And the reason why people aren't abundant is because they're waiting for abundance to show up in their life before they start being abundant. But it's the other way around. You have to actually be abundant first before the results will follow. So let's take a look at what it actually means to be abundant. It's a set of ways of being that boils down to being grateful, receptive, creative, generous, loving, optimistic, expectant, and unattached. Those were backwards for you, weren't they? Well, sorry about that. A scarcity mindset is comprised of being entitled, frantic, attached, resistant, a victim, ungrateful, selfish, closed off, negative. Which ways of being you choose are up to you, not your circumstances. And until we start consistently choosing to be abundant, abundance will not come to us. Paradoxically, you'll find that once you really get that you're free to choose your ways of being regardless of your circumstances, the results won't really matter. Who cares what kind of things you have when you're living your life from a place of gratitude and joy? And what helps to choose being abundant is to recognize that scarcity doesn't really exist. You've never actually experienced scarcity. It's all a matter of what you're focusing on. Is there a scarcity of black on this paper, or is there an abundance of white? The answer depends on which perspective you choose to take. Anytime you experienced scarcity with one thing, there was simultaneously an abundance of a bunch of other stuff. The experience you have depends entirely on what you choose to focus on. Opposites create each other. There couldn't be abundance without scarcity existing simultaneously. So it's just a matter of where you choose to put your focus in any given moment. So if you're experiencing scarcity, that means that you are being scarce. So with what are you being stingy with yourself? With the resources that you currently have, how can you be more generous, more grateful, more optimistic, more open-minded, more connected? Don't wait for your circumstances to change. If you're coming from a scarcity mindset, then you'll always be comparing yourself to someone who has more, regardless of how much you have. And if you're waiting for more money before you can start being abundant and living abundantly, then you're being very silly because money is just a concept and it doesn't really exist. Money is a symbol that we made up, and it symbolizes value, and the only way that we experience value is by being grateful. Money will not come to you, and it will not stay with you unless you are being grateful. So if you're being stingy and you're waiting for the money to come along, now you know why it's not coming. So it's a constant choice. Do you want to focus on the infinite abundance, or do you want to find things to focus on that are scarce? So take off those scarcity goggles through which you've been looking at life for however long, and start seeing all the abundance around you. Choose abundance. And the results will eventually come to match your vibration, but when you're in that vibration, I promise you, you won't even care about the results because it's just going to feel so good. And remember that results are just a mirror that show you the ways that you were being in the past. So if you're dwelling on your results, you're dwelling on the past. It's a lot more fun to create the future. And that's your Insta coaching for the day. Thanks, Sarah, for the request, and keep messaging me with feedback and more requests.